Welcome back to The Explainer. So, today we're diving straight into something pretty much every New England homeowner has to deal with. We're talking about how to absolutely bulletproof your home against New Hampshire's most brutal, just unforgiving summer weather. You know the drill, right? You're standing by your window during a sudden July thunderstorm, and you're watching an actual waterfall cascade right over your roof and straight into your foundation. Yeah, it's not fun. So, today we're breaking down the ultimate gutter engineering you actually need to survive it. Let me just start by asking you a really high stakes question. Can your gutters actually survive a New Hampshire summer downpour? And hey, I'm not talking about a nice light spring drizzle. I'm talking about those massive, sudden summer storms that just roll in over the mountains and unleash an absolute torrential downpour in, what, a matter of minutes? When that happens, that extremely fast runoff can completely destroy your landscaping. It erodes your soil, and worst of all, it can flood your foundation. So picture this. Imagine a torrential summer thunderstorm hitting a large, steep New Hampshire roof. Because of that steep pitch, the water doesn't just, gently trickle down, it accelerates. It literally turns into this devastating high-velocity wall of water just barreling toward the edge of your roof. And when that wall of water meets a standard, everyday gutter system, well, it's a complete mismatch. The whole thing just gets totally overwhelmed in seconds. Section 1. Why standard gutters fail. It's the builder-grade trap. Okay, so let's think about the exact specs of that failing builder-grade standard. And it's a trap, really, because it looks perfectly fine on a sunny day. But look what you're actually dealing with. A narrow 5-inch capacity, incredibly thin 0.027 gauge aluminum, tiny 2x3 downspouts, and those really flimsy micro mesh guards. When a heavy summer rainstorm hits, or, when those pine trees start shedding, this system simply cannot handle the volume, the weight, or the debris. It's going to flex, it's going to overflow, and it is definitely going to clog. Moving on to Section 2, the 6-inch seamless solution, upgrading capacity. So consider the 5-inch standard. Because it's so incredibly narrow, that fast-moving wall of water we just talked about, it literally just shoots right past the edge. It is a massive splashover risk. But then think about the 6-inch seamless upgrade. Now, that extra inch might not sound like a lot, right? But structurally, it's a game changer. It provides a wider mouth and a deeper trough, which is perfectly designed to catch that really fast runoff from those steep New Hampshire roofs. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is 50%. Just by upgrading from a 5-inch to a 6-inch gutter, you're increasing the actual water volume capacity by nearly 50%. It's a staggering jump in performance. When you've got torrential summer rain falling at, say, 2 inches per hour, that 50% extra capacity is exactly what keeps the water inside the channel and, more importantly, away from your basement. And what's really interesting is that this isn't just manufacturers making claims. This is real-world validation. Listen to this consensus pulled straight from a community of roofing experts and homeowners on Reddit. They say, money aside, you would never regret 6-inch over 5-inch. A 6-inch gutter can hold roughly 50% more. So the consensus from the people who are actually out there dealing with this heavy runoff is totally clear. Upgrading to 6 inches isn't some fancy luxury. In a state with weather like ours, it's an absolute necessity. All right, Section 3, upgrading aluminum and downspouts. We're talking strength and drainage here. You see, the thickness of the metal really dictates the survival of the gutter. Most of your standard installations are going to use 0.027 gauge aluminum, basically because it's cheaper and faster to run through a machine. But under the pressure of intense summer storms, heavy winds, or maybe a stray branch falling, it flexes, it dents, and it sags over time. On the flip side, heavy-duty 0.032 gauge aluminum is incredibly rigid. It holds its shape perfectly, and it's built entirely to handle New Hampshire's crazy weather extremes. And here is exactly why that matters. That 0.032 gauge aluminum gives you an 18% thickness increase over the usual builder-grade standard. That 18%? It's literally the difference between a gutter that warps after just a couple of years and the heavy-duty system that can boast a lifespan of 30 to 50 years. It grabs those hanger screws tightly, and it flat out refuses to bend under pressure. Okay, so then we have the escape route for all that water, because think about it. If you catch 50% more water but then try to force it through a tiny hole, your gutters are still going to overflow. The standard 2x3 downspout gives you about 6 square inches of drainage area. It clogs so easily. But the upgraded 3x4 downspout, that provides 12 square inches. The opening size literally doubles. It gives you this massive drainage capacity that lets all that fast summer runoff just flush right out immediately. Which brings us to Section 4, defeating the pine needle.
It is the ultimate gutter antagonist.
We really have to talk about this menace, the white pine needle. It's this 2.5-inch long natural hazard. Now, do you remember how wide that standard builder-grade downspout was that we just talked about? 2 by 3 inches? Right. That means a single 2.5-inch pine needle can turn horizontally and just perfectly bridge the gap of that standard drain. A few more get stuck behind it, and within minutes, bam, you've created an immediate, totally impenetrable clog. It's honestly a brilliant but terrible feat of nature that just absolutely destroys standard drainage.
So how do we actually beat it? Well, everything points straight to perforated guards. Look, standard micromesh guards seem great in theory until, and anyone who owns a rake in New England knows this all too well, the sticky pine sap and pollen completely seal up those tiny holes. It basically turns your gutter into a solid shelf. Perforated aluminum guards win because their solid construction actually adds real structural strength to the gutter itself. Plus, the perforations are perfectly designed so that those 2.5-inch pine needles just wash right over the edge. Meanwhile, any tiny fine debris that does happen to make it inside gets easily flushed right out of those massive 3x4 downspouts. It's just this harmonious, completely clog-free system. Section 5, built by Dan and Andrew. Field-tested local engineering.
I really want to emphasize here that this setup isn't some generic out-of-the-box national franchise kit that was designed for, a mild climate somewhere else. This robust defense system was heavily engineered by Dan, who has over 30 years of hands-on field experience alongside his son Andrew. They developed and absolutely perfected this exclusively at New England Gutter Systems. They literally just looked at what was failing year after year in local neighborhoods, and they engineered a hyper-specific solution for it. And their precise installation methodology is honestly just as important as the materials themselves. A maximum hanger spacing of 24 inches is the gold standard here. While other companies might stretch those hangers out just to save a few bucks on materials, Dan and Andrew at New England Gutter Systems use heavy-duty ray hangers spaced at a maximum of 24 inches apart. That tight spacing is what gives the entire gutter run unbreakable strength against wind, the sheer weight of the water, and basically whatever else a sudden summer squall throws at it. And then, proper discharge away from the foundation is really the final puzzle piece. New England Gutter Systems ensures the installation is tucked perfectly right up behind the drip edge of your roof. That way water can't sneak behind and rot out your fascia board. Then those massive 3x4 downspouts safely route that incredibly fast, high-volume runoff far away from the home and the foundation, completely sealing your defense system. So this all builds into the ultimate defense package, which is known as the New England Gutter Systems Standard. It's essentially this brilliant 4-part harmony of engineering. First, you've got the 6-inch seamless gutters, giving you maximum water volume. Then the .032 gauge aluminum providing unbending heavy-duty strength. You pair that with a 3x4 oversized downspouts that effectively double your drainage capacity. And finally, you cap it off with perforated gutter guards acting as the ultimate pine needle defeat. Every single component is purposefully chosen to handle our torrential summer rain.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Take a good look at your own roofline today. Is your home's defense fully upgraded before the next massive New Hampshire summer storm hits? Because honestly, when the sky turns dark and that torrential downpour begins, well, it's a little too late to wish you had a 6-inch system installed. I really hope this explainer gave you a clear understanding of exactly what it takes to fully protect your home. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep learning.